Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cyndy. Thank you very, very much for being here. If you saw Monday's video, I was taking a look at the energies around 45, his administration, the people that are dealing with him on a day-to-day basis, and what's going on there. Today, I'm going to take the same sort of look, but this time I'm using my cards, because I want to see what's going on in private with 45 specifically. Um, Things aren't going well for him. They're not going well physically, mentally, politically. He's not stopping wars and doing all the amazing things that he promised he was going to get done. World leaders are laughing at him. There was recently that I believe it was in China, where Putin, Xi, I think it's North Korea. Don't yell at me if I get it wrong. The other dictator. There was a big thing of all of them getting together to watch this big military parade. Well, what it was a show of um, strength, almost like we are the brotherhood. And it really was sort of a slap in the face, um, to 45, who thinks that he is somehow part of your club. Let's take a look, shall we? Let's see what we can see. What's going on behind the scenes? Here we go. Trump in private, Trump in private, Trump in private. We're starting with judgment. Okay. So he's feeling, he is hearing, absorbing the fact that there are a lot of really harsh judgments being made against him. The polls aren't being, I mean, when the right wing polls are against you, you know you're in trouble. So he's feeling um, angry and insulted. And so what does he do? Ace of Swords. He pushes back as hard as he can because he believes that that is a show of strength. He is also using this intrusion into blue cities with ice, etc., as as a way to show, visually show his his dominance and his strength, because very quietly in the back of his mind he knows that things are not being well received. And listen, you can bet your bottom dollar that the money people, 10 of Pentacles, are doing their level best to get him to understand that him tanking the economy is not the way this is supposed to work, and that he's jeopardizing um almost like the solvency of the country. Page of Cups. In true fashion, he only hears what he wants to hear. He only hears the compliments. Did you see that outtake with the all the big tech people going again around the table saying, "Oh, thank you, Mr. President, you're amazing. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President." Like, what a load of crap. And honestly, they should be ashamed, these giants of industry. So he's only absorbing what he wants to hear. What's going on quietly behind his brain is that fear that things aren't going well. But in a private way, he doesn't admit that he was wrong. He doesn't admit that there was defeat. And so the only way that he can, the star card, Six of Wands, the only way he can maintain the illusion of him, the illusion that he has created of who and what and how he is to continue to live in a space that really does not accurately reflect the impact and the results of what's going on and the decisions and choices he's made. So his energy is more volatile than it has ever been. And the harder and louder that he rages, honestly, the more people are like standing around him going, "Oh my God, he's going to stroke out right in front of us." Okay. Like, in Monday's video, I used the phrase like a split screen, right? Like what you see public is not even close to what's going on behind the scenes. Now, honestly, that's sort of typical of all politicians. It's kind of typical of a lot, right? Of big businesses and government organizations. There's always this tendency to sort of pretty it up. But the more he pushes back, unfortunately, the more sort of um, the more it's not working. I'll say it that way. And because it's not working, he's starting to feel very, very exposed. He's starting to feel like the people that he thought he could count on, like, you know, the wannabe czar over there, they're not playing very nice and they're being mean to him. And he doesn't like that either because everybody should be darn well recognizing his power and his authority. But they're not. Why not? Because he's wrapped himself up in a crazy sort of fantasy world. And the people around him they're working very hard. They're juggling very, very hard to try to keep like him literally from sort of going off the deep end. And it's multi-pronged, right? Because they're not just worried about, him like a physical stroke, heart attack, something like that, but they're also worried about like his temper just literally flying into an almost uncontrollable rage that may somehow end up in the public view. And they're also trying really, really hard to skip behind him and clear up the cognitive blips and bleeps that are going on because there is no reining him in. Okay. And you know what? When something can't get reined in, what happens? It gets louder and more aggressive and more More and more energy gets built into whatever this is that can't be pulled back and calmed down. And that's where we're at right now. His health is absolutely precarious. And frankly, the more disappointment he faces, the more things are not going well for him, the more significant are the health concerns. Over the next, kind of like the rest of the year, right? You're going to see public displays of significant deterioration. There is already so much talk about his body functions and which ones of them are being helped or supported by what mechanical device or mechanism. Um, and that's going to continue because he's not doing anything to dial it back. Okay. Um, I've spent too many years, frankly, popping in and out of Trump's energy just to see what's going on with him. And it's getting harder to do because it's getting worse. And the static around him, just the pure raging energy around him, is creating almost like a wall that you can't penetrate. But the problem is he can't escape the wall either. So he has wrapped himself up in the insanity, and the people around him don't really seem to be able to penetrate that wall. Um, and so, and like, I'm not talking about, his chief of staff or, the press secretary. I'm talking about medical professionals, even to some degree, his family members. He's not hearing that what he is doing is so incredibly damaging to him. Never mind what he's doing to like the rest of the world, um, to him. And he doesn't want to hear it because he has always lived in this belief that he is the healthiest, the strongest, the smartest, et cetera, et cetera. And so for him, having to acknowledge any sort of weakness, mental or physical, is just something that he can't escape it because let's face it, when he starts to get undressed or dressed, there's all of this stuff that is supporting his functioning. He can't escape it, and he doesn't like it. Well, isn't that just too bad? So he's on a downhill slide. The anger coming off of this guy and the aggression, honestly, is, I think, at a fever pitch um, that I have ever seen. Certainly that I have ever stepped into. It is, it's a kind of rage and anger that eventually explodes, implodes, self-destructs. Because despite the fact that there are some people, and I think maybe him too, who actually believe he is like the second coming of Christ and or a special messenger of God, he's functioning in a human body. And the human body is not designed to sustain what is going on now. This is somebody who's always lived with sort of chaos. That was like his thing, right? It was his drug of choice, chaos. Um, and so his body's used to sort of a certain threshold of that. But when it starts spiking way above that, that's where you're going to run into continuing problems. And that's just where he's at. Um, I'm just doing a quick scan around. Melania wants like nothing to do with him. There are some events that she has to show up with. She was, I think, at that meeting with those tech people around the table, sitting there. I don't know what she was doing there, but she was sitting there looking, like Melania. But she absolutely minimizes her physical contact with him. It's like she doesn't want him to touch her. Okay, like she just doesn't. And I think a lot of us can relate to that to a smaller degree, where somebody just rubs you the wrong way and you just don't want them in your circle. Um, so so frankly, there's kind of no help there, right? And you have to remember, she is not some poor victim in this. Um, she is as ruthless and as cold-hearted as he is. In some way, it makes them the perfect couple. But she certainly is not somebody who is going to do anything to help him. In that, from her perspective, the more out of control he is, the better it is. It kind of reminds me of the story of the little old lady who was, her days were numbered and she knew that. And she didn't want her kitty cat to be left alone. And so she just started feeding him cream every day because eventually, that was not good for the kitty cat. And animal lovers, do not like send me a bunch of comments. I'm trying to make an analogy here, okay? Um, the more control he is, the more weak his health is, the better it is for her. Far better, far better to go through like life as the widow of a president than the third wife or fourth wife that he divorced. Third, I think. Um, Alec and Don Jr., they sort of get paraded out like puppets, and they very much do what they're told. And Ivanka is the daughter, is doing her level best to just keep her distance. And there you have it. That's what's going on with him. And that's what's going on with that sort of immediate family circle. In many ways, they are perfectly content to let his handlers try to handle him because they don't want to. At this point, I have to say that if he makes it to the end of this year, he's going to be in a much, much more compromised position. Because the things around him are not going to somehow magically um, turn out in his favor. Okay. Thank you very, very much for being here. Questions for Pendulum Friday in the comment section below. Um, Take care. Be well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.